Hey friends, I wasn't planning on filming today, but I just hit send on the post announcing the first episode of the podcast is up, and I'm actually super nervous about it, so I ended up turning off my phone. I put it on airplane mode so I wouldn't be thinking about how everyone's reacting, but that's okay. I feel like I get a little bit too wrapped up in social media and what people think, so I think it's good for me to take a break, especially I feel like putting a video out there is it makes you so vulnerable. So I'm gonna turn it off and focus on knitting for a while. So I thought I would show you what I was inspired to start after filming last week's segment about all of the different things that I didn't finish. So I'm gonna flip the camera around now. Okay, so here it is. I cast on 542 stitches yesterday for the Finch sweater. I don't know why I've done a lot of cardigans lately, so I think I'm just used to saying cardigans. But previously I had done the sleeve I showed you last week. I'm doing in this gorgeous tuku wool. This is actually a mix of, this is Jameson and Smith. And I don't remember the colors for it. This is Jameson and Smith, and this here is Tuku Sock. So I'm just mixing three different, but they're all very sort of rustic, non-superwash treated yarn. So it's got this like lovely crunchy feel. Not rough, I would say. It's still pretty soft. Not if you are used to knitting with very soft superwash yarn, but if you don't touch anything too soft for a while, you can actually appreciate the light crunchiness that this wool gives you. And it's going to make a really beautiful sweater. My hope is if Marie Wallen happens to be there, this is her design, Marie. If she happens to be at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, I would die if I could show her some of my finished designs by her. In terms of the sweater construction, so it was originally written flat like most Marie Wallen design patterns are, and I hate knitting flat, as I said before, especially for stranded color work. So what I've done is I already did the sleeve in the round rather than flat, but because it's a drop shoulder, so the sleeve has no shaping to it, you just get to the top and cast off, and in the end you'll just sew it to the body, and it's just straight around. There's no staggered shoulder to deal with there. But for the body, you basically do one big rectangle with a little bit of a neck and shoulder shaping. And rather than doing that flat, what I'm going to do is add a neck steek and an armhole steek in order to be able to keep going in the round once I get to the parts for the armhole and for the neck. I seem to be adding steeks to everything, even where they're not in the original pattern, because I think that first time I cut open one of my works, it felt so liberating to know that I'm not restricted by, let's say, a choice I've made or maybe a mistake in a pattern. I can just cut it off if I don't like it, or knowing that in a few years if a particular sweater pattern isn't to my liking, I can always change it up by using these different techniques, and knowing about the properties of different materials I'm choosing, particularly in choosing like more rustic yarns and non-superwash. I know that the stitches are kind of forming into a cohesive fabric, so there's no way they're gonna unravel. So it's kind of a culmination of all of the knitting knowledge that I've been filling my brain with, and I think it's a lot of fun to do. So since this is not a regular middle steek that I'm planning on doing with this pattern, I don't know, let me know if you'd be interested in seeing the process and where exactly steeks go when it's for the armhole and for the neck, because basically you make a big sealed up sweater that you have to cut open in order to put your head through and your armholes through. So your arms through. So I think that would be interested. I can't talk today. I think that might be interesting. So if you wanted to let me know in the comments if that's something that you would like to see. All right, I'll leave it at that. Hey, happy Saturday. Just checking in now. Yesterday night, after I filmed my quick segment, the weather kind of went insane. I guess I had to realize what was going on because my phone didn't get the weather alert, but apparently a tornado actually touched down near Ottawa, and a lot of people on the Ottawa side actually lost power because of that. And there was a lot of property damage from people, so it was really sad. I was very lucky. I'm on the other side of the river on the Hull side, and my power only went out for 2 seconds, but I could see that the wind had basically knocked over, like there's a tree right in front of my window here, and the tree was basically bent over with how strong the winds were for a sustained amount of time. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. I made a lot of progress yesterday on the rib section of my Finch sweater that I started to do 2 days ago, and I thought I'd do a quick video just showing you how I manage 3 strands of yarn at once when doing color work. Okay, so I'm just gonna flip the camera around and show you. So I have the progress I've made on my Finch sweater. I've started the first Peary chart on the sweater. So typically when I'm knitting stranded color work, I do it two-handed. So I have my background color in my right hand and my contrast color in my left hand. And when I have to manage a third color, I just keep it floating underneath underneath the work and pick it up when I need it. So I will show you now. I have the third color, so I pick it up from underneath with my middle finger and I wrap it around and pull that through, and then I drop it again, and then I switch back to doing my two-handed knitting. And then I pick it up again here, wrap it around the work, I'm sure there's other ways that people have figured out to manage a third color, but that's what I find works the fastest for me and is the least disruptive in terms of the rhythm of knitting stranded color work. I, however, prefer to do any projects that have 3 strands of color at once at home, because I find it's still a little bit hard to manage without getting the yarns twisted around each other during the process. So what works best is to have all 3 colors laid out in front of me like I had in the video, and knitting at a table. So it's not my favorite projects to do because I like to be able to take my knitting on the go, and this means that I can only do this at home with a little bit more concentration. But it does make a beautiful Peary chart, in that it is in fact my favorite look out of all of the different charts that are on this sweater. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I'm wearing right now my Lovage sweater, which is a design by Wallen, my queen, and I think it's one of my favorite, one of the proudest projects I've ever made. It's still not too difficult in terms of how it was constructed. It's a yoke sweater just with an extended yoke. So you do a very short section for the body, and then a shorter sleeve section, and then you do the first color work section before you join in the round. And then you continue to do all of these beautiful different patterns that are very nature-y and earthy. I did it in Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which I was nervous about because the original design called for Rowan Fine Tweed, which is a yarn that's now discontinued. So I couldn't get the original colors that it was done in, and because of the number of colors involved, I think it's about 5 different colors involved in this project, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to create the same cohesion that Marie Wallen had in the original pattern, because she is one of the things that I love the most about her is the way that she uses colors in her patterns in such a way that even though there's a lot going on, it doesn't look like you've just put together a mishmash of different random colors. It looks like a lot of thought had gone into what the background and foreground color should be and how it creates the overall feel of a design. The Brooklyn Tweed Loft, however, is a really excellent range of muted colors that are very similar to a lot of Rowan's color range, and I picked out this is the background color is this postcard, and it has it's tweedy with all of these red flecks in it, and I thought that was really pulled together by the reds and oranges, the warm colors that are in this, and I also really liked the way that anytime it would get too warm, that you would then get a contrast that was a cooler color to balance it out. So I was able to find colors that were perfect in terms of replacing. Actually, no, there's one color I couldn't find. It's this purple. Brooklyn Tweed doesn't really have a purple in their loft range. So that's actually a how did I say that? Jameson and Smith purple color. I don't really remember it because they number their colors. It was a little bit thinner than Brooklyn Tweed Loft, and but I think after blocking all of the yarns, which are woolen spun, really fill out the space in between, which is one of the benefits of using a woolen spun yarn. So I'm at the end of a ball of Tuku wool, so I can't continue with my sweater until I finished it. Oh, my bread is done. So I thought I'd show you the setup that I used to wind up yarn. So I have a Swift and a winder that I just got off Amazon, and all of my tables are actually too thick to be able to attach them to, so I always end up I have it on this chair, and then I just kind of hold it in my hand and I sit on the floor to wind yarn like this. If I can get it to work, there we go. Uh-oh. Of course you're gonna embarrass me on camera. Okay, there we go. There we go. So I just sit on the ground and wind yarn in my hands. Alright, I'm gonna go eat some garlic bread now. Hey, I just want to quickly correct something I said earlier today. I had mentioned that there was a lot of storm damage from the tornado on the Ottawa side, but not on the Gatineau side. But actually now, apparently I was very lucky and my area wasn't hit, but there's some extensive damage further out into Gatineau. So I hope if you're in this area that you're safe, and hopefully everything will start to recover soon. And it's Sunday, so back to work tomorrow, but it's been a really good weekend full of knitting. I'm wearing just my Galloway cardigan over top of pajamas because I don't really get out of pajamas.
I definitely think I need a bit of a break from doing the Finch sweater right now because I've kind of been going full out, so I might switch over to my Birds of a Feather shawl. I really kind of want to finish it. I did a few of the sections last week. I made pretty good progress, I think. I think I have 5 sections left to go. So I already started the asymmetrical part, which I didn't do which I hadn't gotten to by last week. So there's that, just for something to keep it interesting, or actually maybe it's more that the Finch sweater's a bit too interesting and I could use a break with bigger needles, because right now the Finch sweater is on US 2s, I think, 2.75 millimeters, so my fingers are starting to cramp up a little bit doing color work in them. So yeah, I might be switching to a shawl. I said last week that I'm not really a shawl knitter, which I'm still don't think I'll ever be, but I'm interested in the way that they play with some colors. So I used to be really scared of the color yellow growing up because everyone said like, oh, you're yellow, and so like I never wanted to wear yellow because it didn't necessarily, like, it wasn't that I didn't want to be Asian, it was that I didn't want to stand out, so I didn't want to wear a color which would draw attention to the fact that I was different. So now, after having grown up a little bit, I really love the color yellow and I want it in everything. So I was thinking of doing maybe a fade with a bunch of different yellow colors that Hedgehog Fiber has, but I put all of them in my cart and then I remembered I said I wasn't going to buy any yarn, so maybe that's going to be a new year cast on as well. Everything is basically planning for next year at the moment. In terms of my goals from last week, I said I wanted to finish my Stockholm sweater and make some good progress on my Birds of a Feather and get to my Silver Forest if I could. Oh my gosh, so my landlord is outside right now chopping down trees. So you might hear a little bit of that in the background. What was I talking about? Goals for last week. So I didn't make them, which is true, but I did manage to pick up one of my works in progress, so I guess it's more of a change in strategy, as I think is the language we would use at work. If we don't fulfill one of our targets, we say we had a strategy change. So yeah, so my strategy change is I'm gonna work on my Finch cardigan. I keep saying Finch cardigan, I don't know why. So my Finch sweater is probably gonna be my focus for the next little while I finish the Birds of a Feather shawl. I think I would like to have it finished by this week because the weather has cooled down considerably. It's almost, actually I was thinking about turning on my heater, but I'm trying to hold out as long as possible so that I don't tempt my hydro bill. So I think that's it. That's going to be that's going to take up a lot of my time this week, but we'll see if I want to switch it up by doing something else. I'll let you know when I get there, I guess. Another thing that I was thinking of, another next year planning project, is I really love the Ixel sweater that is on the cover of Pom Pom magazine. The only thing that I don't like about it is I've read the pattern, which is rare for me. I usually find out as I go. But after reading the pattern, I don't really like the way that it's written. And I think it's like a strange intarsia mixed with Fair Isle. And Wallen makes a really beautiful outcome. I don't know if it would be fun to knit. But it is one of those things where the product might be more interesting than the process. I think similar to the Birds of a Feather shawl, like I don't really enjoy doing it because it's all garter stitch, but I really want to wear the final outcome. Whereas usually when I'm making colorwork sweaters, I really enjoy the process of doing it. So I think in this case, I really want the product, so maybe it'll be worth doing. So what I was looking at is more like an enlace, because I don't, the original Ixel pattern, I don't know how you say that. The original Ixel pattern calls for a cashmerino, I think, and I don't, like, it's fine and it works, but you have to know what you're getting into when selecting the fibers in your work. And in this case, because it's a superwash, it's not necessarily going to cohere as well as some of the rustic yarns that I like to use, which are usually what's suggested for color work. Doesn't mean that you can't use superwash. It's that you just have to understand what the difference in the effect that you're going to get between something that's not as sticky compared to a not superwash treated base. All of that to say, I was looking at Lichen and Lace again because I love their rustic sport base. So the original Ixo sweater is made in fingering, but I really want to be able to use the rustic sport base because it's a hand-dyed non-superwash. And I am loving the combination of the lavender and smoke color. I'm just not sure because what it would look like, because I think the original pattern too has the dark background with a light contrast color, whereas this would flip that around and have a lavender background and a smoky contrast color. So I don't know what that would look like with the moons. So I was thinking maybe I could just buy the 2 skeins and do a swatch, but shipping is $15, and I think Canada Post could be going on strike soon, so it might be something that, because I'm not going to get to the actual project for a while, I might just wait and then see what happens. And it's officially fall now, so I've got the kettle boiling. That's the sound you hear in the background. So I'm gonna have some tea, the first warm beverage other than coffee I've had this for the last few months. So I'll show you what I'm drinking, and this is what I'm having. This lavender Earl Grey from a local company in Ottawa called Tealy. It came in this gorgeous gold container. I don't usually like lavender flavors because it reminds me of a spa and like I'm licking its walls, but this is an exception. It's quite delicious. Hello. I've made a dramatic decision. I've decided I was gonna frog her. It's been a year. It's time. I'm never gonna wear it. I don't like it. I don't like how the pattern looks. I just don't think that it stands out enough, that blue. So what I've decided to do instead is the Andrea Maui pattern, the Throwback, because it's sort of like it goes from light to dark, and I think that would look a lot nicer with this than this. This is meant to have 2 very strong contrast colors in the middle of that silver, and I just didn't pick a strong enough one. But I think with the Andrea Maui pattern, it's like more of like 3 values of colors, so like at lightest to kind of medium to darkest, so I think that might look kind of cool. And since it's written to be flat, of course I'm going to convert it to the round, and this is a let low-pea, so the yarn is quite sticky, so you might see me do an unreinforced steek in the future. Alright guys, it's about 6 hours later. I am exhausted, which is why my voice sounds kind of weird. I've been watching The Grocery Girls and getting started on my throwback sweater. So I made it through there's a short row shaping on the top there, and then the chart A is these stripes, and then there's these triangles afterwards. So actually I only have 4 or 5 rows left of the chart before having to, I think, divide for sleeves immediately after. So pretty good progress. Hi guys, it's Monday, and I thought I'd just do a quick check-in to show you what I've been up to for today. Do you know what the funny thing about having a lot of knitting time is? You get all sorts of crazy ideas. So not only did I make significant progress on my, what is this called? Throwback sweater, I also started a new project because I'm crazy, but because I've been thinking about all of using up what I already have and not buying anything. I've been having a lot of time thinking about all the things that have been sitting on my shelf that I've been thinking of doing something with. I don't have much of a stash, but I do talk myself into buying speckled yarns occasionally, even though I have no idea what to do with them. So I finally think I found something to do with 2 skeins of speckled yarn that I had convinced myself to purchase at one point. So let me flip the camera around and show you what I've been up to.
Okay, I hope you're proud of me. Not only did I finish the yoke today and go to the arm separation, instead of picking up the body like I normally would and then leaving Sleeve Island till the end, I've decided to start with the sleeve so that this sweater will be ready to wear as soon as I finish the body. So, but I am loving how this has turned out. This is exactly what I had hoped the Trista would be. Yeah, this is wonderful. You know, I'm starting to think it's not really a sleeve thing, and it's more that I fall out of love with patterns once I've done the more interesting parts, and then there's no point of finishing them, at least in my mind. But this I really want to wear. That's very cool. And this is made out of Let Lopi. So it's going to be a lovely outer layer that I'm going to put a nice t-shirt probably in between my skin and it. Okay, and here's the crazy idea I had about 30 minutes ago. So I only have basically 4 skeins of hand-dyed speckled yarn. It's this one. This is the Ocitane Pool from Maui Yarn, and another one from Maui Yarn called Red Hot Lava. I'll put a picture of it on the screen. I bought the 2 when I was in Maui with my mom earlier this year, and I thought, vacation yarn, it's going to be wonderful, I'm going to do something with it. I didn't really have a plan, so it's been sitting on my shelf for a while. I did start one sock with the other skein, and then I remembered that I hated socks. So yeah, it's going to be a hoe forever, I think, until maybe I think of something else to do with it or get up the interest to finish the other one. So that's going to be one of the colors, and then I'm going to match it with this Log House Farm. It's a local Ottawa company. She runs a farm which sells some wonderful jams as well as some lovely dyed yarns. I bought this one because I went to their trunk show at Wabi Sabi, and it seemed weird to leave without anything, and I really liked this color because it reminded me of chocolate chip ice cream. Originally, I had bought 2 skeins of this because I wanted to see if I could make a tenya out of it, but after I cast on about 500 stitches, I made a mistake in lace, and I was like, this is not going to happen. So that's why it looks kind of funky in the winding up. But yeah, I think I'm gonna match these 2 together, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna like how it looks, but I figure it could always be a gift to my mom to celebrate our first big vacation, just the 2 of us.
So yeah, I'm actually visiting my parents in Calgary this Christmas from December 20th to January 1st, and I have almost convinced my mother to drive me to all of the different yarn stores since I can't drive and they live in the middle of freaking nowhere outside Calgary, it seems like. So I know there's Stash Lounge. That's the one I've heard of the most. But yeah, if you're in the Calgary area and you have any recommendations for a must-go yarn store or a knit night that happens, I'd be happy to hear about it. Yeah, I'm gonna call it a night because I am so tired, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye. Hi friends, it's Wednesday. You didn't see me yesterday, not that you would notice the difference, but yeah, I didn't really have anything to update. I feel like this week has not been super full of content. Like last week I really planned it out with the topics I wanted to discuss this week, whereas this week I was more focusing on specific projects, so it's just been updates, I guess. And so if I felt like if I was just telling you again like I made progress, it's not gonna be super interesting, so I skipped it just so then I had more noticeable difference, I guess, to show you. And anyway, yesterday I was feeling pretty tired because I actually went to the clinic to get a blood test. It's all good. I was just trying to figure out if I have any food sensitivities. So yeah, hopefully I'll get the news on that soon. So for now, I'm gonna show you what I've been working on. So this is the shawl I started for. I think I'm pretty settled on giving it to my mom because I don't think I necessarily appreciate, I objectively, I know it's lovely. I love the way that the colors are working together, the way that this white has those greens that really pull it together from the blue, the tonal here. But yeah, I'm not a fan of hard lines in terms of stripes, at least. So I'm gonna give it to someone who will really love it. And this has been an interesting experience because I'm starting to appreciate the way that shawl designs kind of integrate interesting techniques, which are, I think, fantastic learning tools for people who are new to knitting. Like, there's a lot of patterns that incorporate short rows and mixing of colors and different ways of blending colors together and giving people color confidence. So I think I'll walk back my statement that I'm not a shawl person. I think well, I'm still personally not a shawl person, but I think they're super cool and they do have their merit. And because they're in garter stitch, but they add those little bits of design details, it really allows for beginners, I guess, and even just anybody to test out different techniques in a way that's not super, you know, full commitment to like a garment which has a lot of time and investment associated with it. So definitely see the merit. And there is something really satisfying about seeing the shape grow, which is not quite the same as the way sweaters grow. So I guess the way the fabric is formed, you kind of see progress a lot faster than you would when you're knitting the body of a sweater, where it just kind of looks the same until it doesn't. And the other thing is, so the reason why I started that is because my hands have been getting really like linen-y from doing the keep saying Trista because it's what it used to be, but she's now the Throwback, and I am in love with these colors. I think I've already said that before in a previous day. See, the day-to-day format, the bad thing about it is I can't exactly remember what I've said before, and I don't want to repeat myself, but when you love something, you love something. So look at the way the colors play together. That's really, really striking, and I think it's just such a unique looking piece. Even the original design, I think it's super funky, the way that Andrea Mowry, who is the designer, uses kind of she uses spin cycle yarn for it, and she uses white, but then she uses kind of this like green, yellow, it looks super, and then it moves to a very dark color, and it's very psychedelic and kind of looks like a faux fade because of the way that green that's in between the white and the dark color. Yeah, it looks super cool. I'll just, you know what, I'll put a picture because that probably does a better job of explaining than I did. Basically what you get out of that is I think it looks pretty neat the way she picked a yarn that has sort of so much variation contained within one stitch. Yeah, it's beautiful. And this is a bit of a different look because the Lopi is more solid, but I think that transition, that like, it's still kind of a light transition to the blue and then a very striking rust color at the end. And something about these little lines just like, yeah, I love everything about this. It looks very landscape-ish, and you can definitely picture its like inspiration as being in some gorgeous, you know, mountain tops and stuff. And the sleeve is pretty neat. You do quite a lot of 3x3 ribbing, and then you're meant to fold it over. I think it just, what I appreciate about her patterns is that there's such these attention to small details, like a rolled over sleeve. It's like, it's not typical, right? And you're not doing anything fancy, you're just knitting this longer and folding it over, but it just adds an extra detail which really transformed the way that the design looks. And yeah, and I can, like, without even knowing it's the throwback sweater, I can feel the sort of inspiration from, I don't know, like it does feel like a throwback to an earlier time. I meant to tell you a little bit about the yarn that I had bought for this. So this is going to be a gift to my mom because I had bought the yarn at this little shop called Binky's. Don't remember how to say the name of the place we're in. I'm just on my computer here trying to find it. Binky's Maui. So it's in Lahaina, so that's like the big area with all the shopping, so it's a big street that you go shopping on. And so I had done a search for yarn, as you always do before you go on vacation, and I found that there's not a lot of yarn, which is expected for a tropical place, I guess, like Hawaii. And but there was one, and now I think two, but I guess all of the reviews were at the time when there weren't any other dyers. So there's only one company called Maui Yarn who dyes out of and sells their wares in this place called Binky's. And it's not a yarn store, it's more of like a craft / locally made product store. And yeah, so it was like a little like lots of little stalls full of stuff made by local makers, and this was one of them. And actually, it's actually a really good place to go and visit if you're looking for souvenirs. Yeah, so she had all sorts of colors. There was one, so I bought Red Hot Lava, and this one, which is Ocitane Pool, because Maui is known for all the I think most of Hawaii too, all of the different waterfalls that you can go and visit. So I bought this one that's this like blue tealy green, and I also bought this like the lava one, which is like this red, oranges, and a little bit of yellows. But she also had one that was like shark inspired, so that was like a bunch of grays. And I think, you know, vacation yarn is something that I might continue to do, even if I don't really know what to do with it at the time. I think, you know, like it's pretty easy to find like a 1 or 2 skein project, and then, you know, even if I don't want to keep it, like you can maybe go to the person that I went with, and my mom just she'll take anything that I knit, so it's a pretty good. Actually, she offered to gleaner my sweaters in exchange, so I said to her I'll mail them all to them, and she can like keep them for a few months and then like de-pill all of them for me. So I was thinking of getting her a gleaner for Christmas, and it'd be more of a gift for me than for her. And yeah, so that was so the trip to Maui was really special because, so I mentioned before, I now live in Ottawa, which is on sort of which is in Quebec, just on the Quebec and Ontario border on the Hull side. So I say Quebec, it's in I know where I live. So I live in Hull, which is in Quebec, but Ottawa is in Ontario. It's the bigger city next to Hull where I live. What was I talking about? And my mom is in Vancouver on the other side of Canada. you know, she's closer to the Pacific Ocean and closer to the Atlantic Ocean. So we decided to meet halfway in Hawaii, and actually got a super crazy travel deal on this flight to Maui. I think I paid $250 to fly from Ottawa. I did have to do a tour of America in order to get there. Like I think I went to Detroit and then LA and then Maui, and then on the way back I went to Seattle, Minnesota, Detroit, and then back to Ottawa. So, but I mean, for $250, it's not just like a little discount. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me to book it. And I think my mom flew on points, so it was a pretty good, inexpensive trip. Anyway, where was I going with that? I was really proud of my mom, actually, because so Maui is not really is known for more adventure-y stuff. So one of the biggest things that you do there is this drive called the Road to Hana, and there's like 600 different curves in that road, and my mom made it. Although you do drive pretty slowly, but you know, it's not like I was a contributing member to this road trip, because I actually don't have a driver's license. So it was, yeah, and it was super nice to be able to spend time with her, since I had moved to Ottawa 4 years ago, 5 years ago actually now, because I moved here for school, and then I stayed here afterwards because I had found a job. And so now they have moved to Calgary, so trying to find a reason to go visit when you're living in Canada is a little bit difficult, because it's quite expensive to fly within the country. Like I often find flight deals to Europe for around $400 to $500, and whereas flying to Vancouver, like at a non-peak time, would be $600, up to like $1,000 during the Christmas season, and even to Calgary it's about the same price range. So it's a bit difficult to find reasons to visit, so this trip was really special. So I think having originally I was gonna make socks, but I feel like this sort of shawl, even if you don't wear it around you, it's kind of a decorative piece, like a blanket for the sofa. So I think that'll be good, and when I'm going to visit her in Calgary for the first time at their new house, it'll be a nice little gift. And actually both my grandparents are there, and when I was calling my mom the other day, my grandma came on the camera, and she saw that I was knitting this sweater at the time, and so this was my other grandmother on my dad's side, and she also, so I guess I missed out on her role in my whole knitting journey in my last, in the last video where I talked about how I got started. So she said, wow, like you're knitting so fast, like I remember when you were little, like I tried to teach you and you were so frustrated, you couldn't learn, but then in the end you got it when you were reading books. And I think I mentioned like I had gotten this book out of the Scholastic book orders, and so that's how I learned. But my other grandmother actually had taught me to knit, and I do remember her, she used to like knit little toys for all my dolls, and she had knit me this like lovely acrylic bright red sweater without a lot of shape, so which was full of love. So I kept it when I was still living in Vancouver. My mom might have gotten rid of it when they were moving out of the house, but I guess my family did play a big role in this whole fiberiness. Grandmothers seem to be a pretty common thread in a lot of people's craft stories, and yeah, actually if you would like to share your craft stories, I'd love to hear it. It's always interesting to see the different ways that people have, like, and it seems like a lot of people originally found it because of a family member, and then they leave it, and then because of whatever life throws at them, they end up back there. So yeah, I think that's super cool, and that it's neat that everyone's being brought together by this common love. So anywho, I feel like I've just kind of talked on for a while. I started editing yesterday the video, and it was half an hour, and I was like, I'm gonna do pretty good this week, because last week my mom she messaged me, she's like, I saw you on YouTube, but it was an hour. It's too long for me. I'm not gonna watch it. So I was like, okay, thank you, Mom. But I do have to say, I am so like, thankful and kind of flustered at all the nice messages I received from people who did watch the last video and enjoyed it. So thank you so much. And actually, just before I hit record, I saw that Diana Walla actually commented on the last video saying like that she liked the format, and that was really sweet for saying all of those embarrassing things about how much I love her. So I was like, I die. But yeah, so I didn't set this out to be like, I'm on 10 million, you know, so I was just like, I don't know if anyone wants to watch this. Even if 10 people do, that's 10 more people than I had talked to before, so thank you so much for watching. Yeah, I think I'll see if I record tomorrow. Since Thursday is usually the day that I spend like fighting the computer to render the video and then trying to get it uploaded onto YouTube, and that usually takes a few hours. And then in the meantime, I can't watch any podcasts. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll just like talk a bit about some of the books, knitting books that I've enjoyed, and also some of the podcasts that I like watching, because I do spend a lot of time doing that. So I think that'll be what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. If you've sat through this whole 20-minute section, thank you. You're the best. Okay, I'm going to go to bed now. Have a good night. Hello, I'm back. It's Thursday. This is the last day of the video, and I said I was going to show you some of my knitting books, and I spent some time at looking. I have a lot. I have like 15 knitting books, and so I thought I'd segment it out, and today I'm just going to show you my Marie Wallen collection, since I did talk about her both last week and this week, and I feel like I need to redeem her a little bit, because I did mention that I hated the chart in her Orkney cardigan, so I want to talk about some of her wonderful patterns. And I also, before I get into that, I just wanted to show you, I finished the sleeves on my throwback sweater today. So here it is with both of the sleeves, and now I just got 9 inches to knit on the body, and then all of the ribbing for the neck and the button band, and then it'll be done. I was originally hoping to do it for Saturday, because me and my friend Caitlin were going to go to the Ottawa Art Gallery, and I was hoping that maybe I could take some photos there, but I actually don't think it's gonna happen for Saturday, because that's in 2 days, so it would only give me tomorrow to finish it, and so I don't think that's realistic. So I'll try to I'll at least get some good photos in my living room as soon as I finish it. So I'm gonna get into my Marie Wallen collection. So because Marie Wallen used to design for Rowan, but now she's an independent designer. So all of her books are actually print to order, so you can only get them from her shop, I think, unless a shop obviously in your area has done a large order from her. But the easiest way to get her is to order directly, and because of shipping cost, I couldn't just go with one when I made my order. So the reason that I did this order was because she had just released this very springy collection called Bloomsbury. This is the cover of it, and she uses the same model in all of her books, and she's gorgeous. And I just found out that she was from Vancouver, actually. And okay, I'm gonna put this down for a second. Speaking of Vancouver, I'm so jealous of people that are starting to arrive in Vancouver for Knit City. I really wish I could have gone. Actually would have been nice to go and also see my family while I was there. So my mom is in Calgary already, but my dad and my brother are actually still in Vancouver, so it would have been nice. And the funny thing is, Knit City happens at I think is it the it's at the PNE. And actually, during high school, I used to work at the fair at the PNE. So I'm not sure if I walk in, I'll maybe have a little bit of flashbacks. It was, you know what? No, it was fun, but it definitely taught me that I was not meant for customer service. My job was one of the guest service attendants, so I would work in one of those booths, or I was on the phone. And to tell you the secret, okay, you guys are gonna get the scoop for working at guest services for the fair at the PNE or Playland. If you call the customer service line and ask any questions, we Googled it. So people would call me, and you know what, that's why I'm like confident on the phone now. I know a lot of my friends are like scared to talk on the phone, but I'm super confident on the phone because I had spent so much time talking to these people where they would be like, excuse me, do you have any gluten-free options? And then and then I would like literally Google like the PNE vendors list and then be like, yeah, and then and at the time, you know, speaking of gluten-free, so they were all like, is there any gluten-free options? And then I would be like, well, there's a chicken leg you can get. And they were like, no, I mean like healthy. And I was like, I don't think you know what gluten-free is. So, and I'm like, I don't know, everything's deep fried, you're coming to a fair. Anyway, so I spent, I think 3 summers working at the fair at the PNE. So, and I guess, I think if I'm right, the marketplace happens in the area where they would do all of those, where vendors would come, and it would be all those like as seen on TV stuff. So there would be like basically like the slap chop guys, and they would be on their like headphones and like go like, hey, you, do you want to see some vegetables being cut up and some vegetables being cut? Anyway, so back to Marie Wallen. This is the reason I bought this book. Now see, I've lost my train of thought after all of that. Okay, anyway, okay, let me conclude. I will very jealously look at all the pictures of all the people enjoying their time in Vancouver, and fingers crossed, if I have a bit of money left after my Scotland trip, I might be able to make it happen for next year. So now I will show you these books. So I had bought this book. I admired from Marie Wallen a long time before I had made these purchases, but I saw that she was doing a preview for this Bloomsbury right before it came out, and the photography in this is so amazing. I want to make every single thing in this book. So and one of the biggest reasons I bought these books is that they're wonderful lookbooks, as well as having the pattern in the background. So they're also just nice to have on your coffee table to flip through. So I can show you some of the pictures actually without showing you, without giving away the pattern. So the one that obviously drew my attention was this one on the cover, but there's also some wonderful ones. There's one cabled pattern that's gorgeous. Let's see if I can find it. It's gray. I'm telling you the color is not gonna help you here. That's not gonna help you find. Where is it? Well, okay, well, so there's this one, which is this like lovely full color Fair Isle. Where's the camera? Pattern. There's also this sort of luscious cabled green one. Yeah. The styling in this is so wonderful. It's very like vintagey, like the model that she uses. She just has this sort of old-timey look that's like really striking. Let's see. Oh, this is the pattern that I love. So it's this mix of lace and cables. It's so beautiful. So yeah, those are just some of my favorites. I really like the sort of earthy tones of this colorwork sweater. Yeah, it's very like springtime in England. I love that. Another book that I've had my eye on for a while is North Sea, which has all of these sort of, all the colors in the book are very like grays and blues, very moody, and it just, yeah, it reminds me of like, so all of it's shot like on these like sort of moody beaches, and they're beautiful. So a few of my favorite patterns from this. I love how like sort of it's like a fisherman's aesthetic. I love this. Let's see. There's so this is the one I kind of started working on. This was the reason why I wanted this book, was this combination of color work around the yoke and the bottom, and then very heavily textured middle, and then in this sort of mix of blue and gray color. I did start it, but I'm not sure if I like the way the colors mix together. Oh, this is one of the whips I forgot to show you, and because it might be frogged, that's why I didn't show it to you. But I started it in Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight, and I'm just, let me know if you think I should frog this, because I haven't decided yet. So I'm just not sure if it's a strong enough contrast between the gray and the blue that I chose. I think the answer is no, it isn't, and I should frog it and replace this blue with a just like one shade darker blue. But it is really beautiful, and I'm a bit too precious to frog it at the moment. But yeah, I think the answer is it's too light. I also saw a version of this by Lisa May on Instagram, and she had it with a gray and a darker like black color, and I think that one looked really cool. So maybe that I'll replace my colors with that. So I bought I really like the background color though, and the way the cables look in that. Yeah, I'm not happy with the way the color work section turned out. And actually that reminds me a lot of another pattern that's in the Tudor Roses book by Alice Starmore, which I also have on my shelf. I'll show you that another time. But yeah, so that's North Sea. Yeah, and that's just like the perfect description for it. Oh, another pattern that I want to do from this book is basically the opposite. It has a lot of color work with a cabled shoulder, like a sort of saddle shoulder with a beautiful color work in the middle. Yeah, it's very like, yeah, everything just looks very sort of moody and beautiful. I keep saying, I don't want to say the same thing over and over again, but you get the idea. Beautiful book. And now this is Shetland. This has been a book that I wanted for so long, and what a nice excuse to buy it was to make the shipping better. So this is Marie Wallen's book, which is I think one of the first where she doesn't actually use Rowan yarns either. I think she uses Jamieson. Oh, so there's two companies from Shetland. There's Jamieson and Smith, and then there's Jamieson of Shetland, which is a bit confusing. But yeah, so all of these books I want to knit everything out of, basically. So there's this, but sort of the ones I've had my eye on is first the Bresse, and it's this color work, but in a yoke construction. There's also this Ninian, which is this like lovely full Fair Isle cardigan with pockets. Check that out. The other one that so the original reason why I wanted this book was for one particular pattern, which is the Sam Free. And look at her braid crown. Yeah. What's her name? Shoot. So Fruity Knitting. Why don't I remember her name right now? So Fruity Knitting, she had made made a version of that and it looks gorgeous. And I just love this little miniature pony. It's so cute. And I think the story was that this pony had just showed up while they were shooting. And so they got a few pictures with it. Yeah. I also, have you guys seen this cardigan? She's done a few of them in this sort of shape, and I've never seen it before. It's quite striking, but I'm not sure if it looks good because the model on is so like gorgeous and slim, or if that actually is a flattering shape. It is a very good one to show off color work, but yeah, I'm not sure. So you don't have to watch me, I guess, look through these books, but I guess you are. Sorry. Yeah, it's beautiful. Just this is a sleeveless. Good for me. I don't like doing sleeves, but just flipping through it. Look at these ponies. Every single page is beautiful. So many gorgeous designs that I want to make my way through when I have the chance. Okay, so those are the 3 books out of my Marie Wallen collection. Thank you for sticking with me. So I just want to mention, since this is the last clip, if you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at Books and Cables, and on Books and Cables also on Ravelry. Those are the only 2 platforms I'm on. Instagram is probably the easiest to reach me by. And I wish you great success with all of your knitting this week, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!